Lieutenant Jack Miller floated near the viewport of the USS Horizon, his eyes fixed on the small object tumbling slowly through the void. The survey vessel had been mapping the outer asteroid belt when their sensors picked up an anomalous reading. Something that didn't belong among the rocks and ice. "Dr. Grant, come look at this," Jack called out, not taking his eyes off the viewport. Lisa Grant pushed away from her workstation and glided across the observation deck in the ship's zero gravity. Her dark hair was tied back in a practical ponytail, and her eyes widened as she followed Jack's gaze. "Is that an escape pod?" she asked, pressing her face closer to the reinforced glass. The object was small, perhaps the size of a refrigerator, with an unusual oval shape. Its metallic surface reflected the distant sunlight, but even from here they could see scorch marks along one side. Jack nodded. "And it's not one of ours." The intercom crackled. "Lieutenant Miller, Dr. Grant, report to the bridge immediately." Captain Alan Ford's voice was calm, but carried an unmistakable edge of tension. When they arrived on the bridge, the captain was standing before the main view screen, which displayed a magnified image of the mysterious pod. Several other crew members were already gathered, including Communications Officer Samantha Wells and Security Chief Greg Martinez. "What do we know?" Jack asked as he secured himself to a station. Captain Ford gestured to the screen. "Unknown technology. Definitely not from Earth or any of our colonies. It appears to be damaged and is emitting a faint distress signal on a frequency we've never encountered before." "Life signs?" Dr. Grant asked, leaning forward. "Faint, but yes," replied Ford. "Something's alive in there, and it's fading fast." Greg Martinez crossed his arms. "Captain, regulations clearly state that we should avoid contact with unknown alien life without proper authorization from command." "I'm well aware of protocol, Chief," Ford replied, his weathered face showing the weight of the decision. "But by the time we get authorization, whatever's in there will be dead." Lisa stepped forward. "Captain, as the ship's xenobiologist, I recommend immediate retrieval. This could be first contact with an intelligent species. Or it could be a trap," Martinez countered. Samantha Wells, who had been quietly working at her communication station, suddenly spoke up. "Captain, I've been analyzing the distress signal. It's not just random noise, there's a pattern to it. It's definitely artificial communication." Ford looked at each of his officers in turn, then nodded decisively. "Prepare retrieval operations. Dr. Grant, set up quarantine protocols in the science bay. Martinez, I want a security team standing by. Let's bring it aboard." Jack felt a flutter of excitement and fear in his stomach. In all his years in space, he'd never encountered anything truly alien. Now, that was about to change. 2 hours later, the small pod sat secured in the science bay's quarantine chamber. The entire retrieval had gone smoothly, with the ship's mechanical arms gently capturing the pod and bringing it through the cargo airlock. Jack, Lisa, and a small team stood outside the transparent quarantine barrier, studying the pod. Up close, it was even stranger, constructed of materials their scanners couldn't identify, with flowing designs etched into its surface that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. "Look at these markings," Lisa said, pointing to symbols along the pod's edge. "They resemble writing. Can we open it?" Jack asked. Lisa nodded. "The life sign inside is getting weaker. We need to act now." Using remote manipulators, they carefully worked on the pod's seal. Everyone held their breath as the top portion finally slid open with a soft hiss. "Oh my God," whispered Lisa. Inside, curled in what appeared to be a cushioned interior, lay a creature unlike anything they had ever seen. It was about the size of a house cat, but that's where any resemblance to Earth life ended. The creature had 6 limbs, a body covered in iridescent scales that shifted color slightly, with each shallow breath it took. Its head was triangular, with no visible ears but 3 eyes currently closed, and what looked like sensing appendages along its jawline. "It's injured," Lisa observed, pointing to a dark fluid leaking from the creature's side. "Is it safe to remove it from the pod?" Jack asked. Lisa checked her readings. "The atmosphere in the quarantine chamber is compatible with the pod's internal environment. I think it's our best chance to treat its injuries." With Captain Ford's permission, Lisa entered the quarantine chamber in a protective suit. With gentle movements, she lifted the creature from its pod. It weighed surprisingly little, and as she placed it on the examination table, one of its eyes flickered open, revealing a startling, intelligent gleam in its deep purple iris. The creature made a soft chirping sound, then seemed to shudder before falling unconscious again. "I need to stop this bleeding," Lisa said, working quickly with tools adapted on the fly for an anatomy they knew nothing about. As she worked, Samantha Wells entered the observation area. "Captain, you need to see this," she said, holding up a tablet. "I've been analyzing the pod's computer systems. This creature has some kind of technology embedded in its body, neural implants, including what appears to be a translation device." "Translator? You mean it can understand us?" Ford asked. "Potentially, once it regains consciousness," Samantha replied. "And there's more. These implants suggest a level of technological advancement far beyond our own. Whatever civilization this creature comes from, they're way ahead of us." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. If that's the case, they might come looking for it. As, if on cue, an alarm began to sound throughout the ship. Greg Martinez pressed his comm badge. "Bridge to Captain Ford. We're detecting an unidentified vessel entering the solar system." "Origin?" Ford asked sharply. "Unknown, sir. But it's big and it's moving fast. Faster than should be possible." The creature on the table suddenly stirred, its three eyes opening at once. It made a series of clicks and chirps, then emitted a small electrical discharge that briefly illuminated the quarantine chamber. "Did you see that?" Jack exclaimed. It generated some kind of electrical pulse. Lisa nodded, fascinated despite the tension. "Let's call it Spark for now." The creature, Spark, looked directly at Lisa, then at the others beyond the quarantine barrier. It raised one of its 6 limbs, pointing toward the ceiling, then made a gesture that seemed unmistakably like a warning. Martinez's voice came over the comm again, tight with tension. "Captain, the vessel has accelerated. At current speed, it will reach our position in less than 6 hours. And sir, it's changed course directly toward us." Captain Ford looked at the alien creature, then at his officers. "I think we just found out who it belongs to, and they're coming to get it back." Spark chirped again, more urgently this time, as its 3 eyes blinked in sequence. The crew of the USS Horizon had no way of knowing that they had just stumbled into the middle of a galactic conflict, or that the small creature they had saved would soon change humanity's place in the universe forever. The next 5 hours aboard the USS Horizon passed in a blur of activity. Captain Ford ordered all non-essential systems diverted to shields and engines, though everyone knew their defenses would be useless against a civilization capable of the speeds they had witnessed. In the science bay, Lisa Grant worked tirelessly to stabilize the alien creature they had nicknamed Spark. Its wounds were healing surprisingly quickly, suggesting advanced biological capabilities or perhaps some function of the neural implants embedded throughout its body. Jack Miller stood by the quarantine chamber, watching as Spark began moving around more confidently, examining its surroundings with obvious intelligence. The creature approached the clear barrier separating it from the humans and placed one of its 6 limbs against the surface. "I think it wants to communicate," Jack said. Samantha Wells nodded. She had set up a makeshift communication station near the quarantine area, hoping to interface with the translator technology they had detected in Spark's neural implants. "The device seems dormant, but maybe we can activate it somehow," she said, fingers moving quickly across her tablet. "If we can establish even basic communication before its owner arrives, we might avoid a confrontation." Spark watched them intently, all 3 of its eyes tracking their movements. Then it did something unexpected. It approached the pod it had, arrived in and used one of its limbs to extract a small crystalline object from a hidden compartment. "What's it doing?" Jack asked. Spark brought the crystal to the edge of the quarantine barrier and held it up. Then, to everyone's amazement, the crystal began to glow with a soft blue light. The creature tapped the crystal against one of its neural implants visible just beneath its iridescent scales. Samantha's equipment suddenly lit up with activity. "It's interfacing with our systems. The translator is activating." At first, they heard only static and strange clicking sounds, but gradually, Patterns emerged, and Samantha's translation algorithm began to make sense of the data. Danger, came a stilted artificial voice through the speakers. Not pet, not property. Jack and Lisa exchanged shocked glances. It understands that we might think it's someone's pet, Lisa said. That's remarkable intelligence. Spark continued, each word becoming clearer as the translation program adapted. Escaped. Must hide. Zorak comes. Dangerous. Zorak? Is that the name of your owner? Jack asked. The creature made a sharp, negative gesture. Not owner. Commander. Military. Saw. Plans. Bad plans. Before they could question further, the ship-wide alert sounded. Captain Ford's voice came over the comm system. All hands to battle stations. The alien vessel will intercept us in 15 minutes. Paul Harris, the ship's engineer, rushed into the science bay. Captain wants to know if we've made any progress. That ship out there is like nothing we've ever seen. We've established basic communication, Samantha explained. But there's more going on here than we thought. This creature isn't just a pet. It's intelligent and seems to be running from someone named Zorak. Paul looked skeptical. Well, whoever Zorak is, they've got a ship that's over 2 kilometers long with energy readings off the charts. The captain needs something to work with or we're toast. On the bridge, Captain Ford and Security Chief Martinez watched the approaching vessel on the main view screen. It was enormous, sleek and predatory, with glowing sections along its hull that pulsed with unknown energy. Time to intercept, Ford asked. 7 minutes, sir, a crew member replied. Ford nodded grimly. Open a channel. All frequencies. The communications officer worked quickly. Channel open, sir. Ford stood straight, gathering his authority. This is Captain Alan Ford of the Earth vessel USS Horizon. We are a peaceful survey ship. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. For a long moment, there was no response. Then the view screen flickered, and everyone on the bridge gasped. The alien on the screen towered over what must have been its own bridge crew. It stood at least 8 feet tall with broad shoulders and 4 arms. Its skin was a dark purple, almost black, with ridges along its face and what appeared to be natural armor plating. Most concerning were the weapons, multiple high-tech devices, integrated directly into its body armor. Earth vessel, the alien rumbled, its voice deep and menacing even through the translator. I am Commander Zorak of the Varkonian Imperium. You have stolen property belonging to me. Return it immediately, or be destroyed. Ford maintained his composure. Commander, we discovered a damaged escape pod with an injured life form. We brought it aboard to provide medical assistance as any humanitarian mission would. We did not steal anything. Zorak's expression, already alien and difficult to read, darkened further. The creature is my property. It contains sensitive information. You will return it within 1 Earth hour, or I will reduce your primitive vessel to component atoms. The screen went blank before Ford could respond. Well, that went well, Martinez said dryly. Ford turned to his officers. Get Dr. Grant and Lieutenant Miller up here now. We need to figure out exactly what we're dealing with. Back in the science, Bay Spark had become increasingly agitated as the Varkonian ship approached. When they told the creature about Zorak's ultimatum, its reaction was immediate and clear. No return. Death. Witnessed conspiracy. Coup plans. Through improved translations, they finally understood. Spark, whose actual name was something like Cathix, wasn't just a pet. It was an intelligent companion species that served high-ranking Varkonians. Due to its perfect memory and neural implants, Cathix had access to sensitive meetings and had witnessed Zorak planning a military coup against the Varkonian civilian government. So you're a witness to treason, Jack said. And Zorak wants to silence you. Cathix made an affirmative gesture with 2 of its limbs. Have proof. In implants. Must reach council. Lisa looked troubled. Captain, we can't send Cathix back to Zorak. It would be a death sentence. Ford rubbed his forehead. But we can't fight that ship either. It would be a massacre. Samantha had been quiet, focused on her work. Now she looked up, excitement in her eyes. Captain Keithix's neural implants contain recorded evidence. If we could access it and somehow transmit it to other Varkonians. That's assuming there are other Varkonians who would care, Martinez pointed out. It's worth a shot, Ford decided. We have less than 40 minutes before Zorak's deadline. Harris, work with Wells to see if you can access those recordings. Miller, Grant, keep working with Keithix. Find out everything you can about Varkonian culture and protocol. And Martinez. Yes, sir? Prepare for the worst, but also see if you can rig some kind of containment field in the conference room. I want to invite our tall, heavily armed friend aboard for a little chat. Martinez's eyebrows shot up. You want to bring that thing onto our ship? Ford nodded grimly. Sometimes the best defense is to invite the enemy into your home. On your terms. Let's see if we can buy enough time to find a solution that doesn't end with us all dead. As the crew scrambled to prepare, Keithix watched them with all three. Of its eyes, its scales shifting to a deep blue color. The creature understood more than they realized, including the fact that these humans were risking their lives for someone they had just met. For the first time since its escape, Keithix felt something like hope. The conference room of the USS Horizon had been transformed in less than 30 minutes. Security Chief Greg Martinez and his team had installed portable shield generators under the table and in the corners. Engineer Paul Harris had rigged a special containment field that could be activated with a hidden button on Captain Ford's chair. It won't hold him long, Paul explained. Maybe 15 seconds at most. But it might give us a chance if things go bad. Captain Ford nodded. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Jack Miller entered the conference room, his face tense. Captain, Dr. Grant has moved Keithix to the medical bay. We thought it would be safer to keep our guest away from what he's looking for. Good thinking, Ford replied. Any progress with the neural recordings? Samantha is still working on it. The technology is incredibly advanced. But Keithix is cooperating fully now that it trusts us. The intercom buzzed. Bridge to Captain Ford, Commander Zorak is hailing us again. 20 minutes remaining on his ultimatum. Ford straightened his uniform. Tell him I'm inviting him aboard to discuss the situation. One representative only, as is standard Earth diplomatic protocol. Jack looked alarmed. Captain, are you sure about this? That alien is twice our size and armed to the teeth. I'm sure of one thing. We can't outfight him, and we can't outrun him. So we'll have to outsmart him. Ford tapped his comm badge. Dr. Grant, how quickly can Keithix recover from sedation? Almost instantly, Lisa's voice came back. Its metabolism is remarkable. Good. Sedate it, but be ready to wake it quickly if needed. I don't want to risk Zorak detecting its life signs. The bridge officer's voice returned. Captain Commander. Zorak has agreed to come aboard, but he refuses to disarm. Ford and Martinez exchanged glances. As expected, Ford said. Have a security team escort him from the transporter room. Full tactical gear, but weapons holstered. We don't want to appear hostile. The minutes ticked by with agonizing slowness. The crew made final preparations, each person knowing their role in the dangerous game they were about to play. Samantha, any progress? Ford asked over the comm. Almost there, Captain, she replied. Keithix's neural implants contain detailed recordings. The evidence is clear, but extracting it without damaging the data is tricky. Work fast. Our guest will be here. Any minute. The door to the conference room slid open. 2 security officers entered first, their faces grim. Behind them came Commander Zorak, and even though they had seen him on the view screen, nothing prepared them for his physical presence. The alien commander had to duck to enter the room. He stood at least 8 feet tall, his forearms moving, with surprising grace despite the heavy armor covering his body. Weapons were integrated into the armor at various points, some recognizable as projectile or energy weapons, others completely foreign in design. His dark purple skin had a metallic quality, and the ridge along his head gave him an even more imposing height. Captain Ford, Zorak said, his translator converting his natural clicking speech into English. I see no reason for this delay. Return my property immediately. Ford gestured to a specially reinforced chair. Commander, please sit. I believe we have a misunderstanding to clear up. Zorak remained standing. There is no misunderstanding. You have taken something that belongs to me. The creature contains sensitive information vital to the security of the Varkonian Imperium. That's precisely what I want to discuss, Ford said calmly. The creature you're seeking is an intelligent being that we rescued from a damaged escape pod. It calls itself Kethix. Zorak's upper right hand moved to a weapon on his belt. It has been speaking to you? What has it told you? Enough to concern us, Ford replied, his finger moving closer to the hidden button. Kethix claims it witnessed plans for a military coup against your civilian government. Zorak's eyes narrowed. Lies. The creature is confused. Its neural implants were malfunctioning, causing it to misinterpret what it saw. In the medical bay, Lisa Grant watched the exchange on a monitor while standing next to the sedated Kethix. Samantha Wells worked frantically at a console connected to the creature's neural implants. How much longer? Lisa whispered. Almost there, Samantha replied. The encryption is complex, but Kethix gave me the access keys before we sedated it. Back in the conference room, tension grew with each passing moment. Commander, Ford continued, on Earth, we have a saying. Innocent people don't usually threaten to destroy ships that ask questions. Zorak took a step closer to Ford. Your Earth sayings are irrelevant. My patience grows thin. You will take me to the creature now, or I will signal my ship to begin targeting your engines. Martinez shifted his weight, ready to draw his weapon, if necessary. Ford held up a hand in a calming gesture. Before we do that, I'd like to understand more about these neural implants. Kethix mentioned they record everything it sees and hears. Is that correct? Something changed in Zorak's posture, a slight stiffening that even across species was recognizable as alarm. The implants are military grade, he said carefully. Any recordings can only be accessed with proper authorization. Ford smiled. Interesting that a simple pet would have military-grade implants. Companionship creatures for high-ranking officials have special clearances, Zorak replied quickly. Now, Captain, my patience is at an end. Ford's comm badge chirped 3 times, the signal from Samantha that she had succeeded. Actually, Commander, Ford said, I think we should all see what Kethix recorded. It might clear up this misunderstanding. He pressed a button on the conference table, and the large view screen on the wall activated. The image was strange at first. The perspective was low to the ground, clearly from Kethix's viewpoint. Then figures came into view, including Zorak and several other tall Varkonians in similar military attire. The Zorak in the recording spoke clearly. The civilian council has grown weak. 3 cycles from now, when the fleet gathers for the Unity celebration, we will take control. All division commanders have been briefed and are loyal to our cause. The real Zorak roared in rage and lunged toward Ford. Martinez drew his weapon, but the alien was incredibly fast. Ford slammed his hand on the hidden button, and the containment field sprang to life around Zorak. You have no idea what you've done, Zorak shouted, one of his weapons already drawn and firing at the field, causing it to flicker dangerously. Actually, Ford replied, standing up calmly, we know exactly what we've done. This entire meeting has been transmitted to your ship, along with Kethix's recordings. I wonder how your crew feels about treason against your government. Zorak's expression shifted from rage to shock. Impossible. My ship is loyal to me. As if in answer, the ship rocked slightly and alarms began to sound. Bridge to Captain Ford, came an urgent voice. 3 new Varkonian vessels just appeared. They're surrounding Commander Zorak's ship and hailing us. Ford looked at the trapped commander. It seems Kethix managed to send a distress signal before its pod was damaged. I'm guessing these new arrivals aren't part of your coup? Zorak's shoulders sagged slightly, the first sign of defeat they had seen from the imposing alien. The civilian protection fleet, he muttered. They must have tracked Kethix's emergency beacon. Ford nodded to Martinez. Keep the commander secure. I need to welcome our new guests. He tapped his comm badge. Dr. Grant, wake up Kethix. I think its friends have arrived. The bridge of the USS Horizon was silent as Captain Ford entered. On the main view screen was another Varkonian, but this one looked different from Zorak. While still impressively tall, this alien wore lighter armor with more decorative elements and no visible weapons. "This is Supreme Counselor Direk of the Varkonian Civilian Authority," the communications officer whispered to Ford. Ford straightened his uniform and stepped forward. "Counselor Direk, I am Captain Alan Ford of the Earth vessel USS Horizon. We welcome your arrival." The Varkonian studied Ford with large amber eyes. "Captain Ford, we have received a most unusual transmission from your vessel. Evidence of a serious crime. We also detect the life signs of a Cathari companion creature aboard your ship. Is it safe?" "If you mean Cathix, yes, it's safe. We found it injured in a damaged escape pod and provided medical treatment." Drek's expression shifted in a way that seemed to indicate relief, though it was hard for humans to read Varkonian facial cues. "The Cathari are valued partners in our society, Captain. They serve as companions to our highest officials because of their perfect memory and intelligence. Cathix was specially assigned to monitor Commander Zorak, as we had suspicions about his activities." Jack Miller, who had quietly entered the bridge, exchanged looks with Ford. This confirmed what Cathix had tried to tell them. "We have Commander Zorak contained on our ship," Ford said. "And the evidence from Cathix's recordings is quite clear about his plans." "Indeed," Direk replied. "We must request permission to send a security team to take Zorak into custody." Ford nodded. "Granted. Our security chief will coordinate with your team." As arrangements were made, the door to the bridge slid open again. Lisa Grant entered with Cathix perched on her shoulder. The small creature had recovered completely from its sedation, its scales now shimmering with a golden hue that they hadn't seen before. When Cathix spotted Direk on the view screen, it made an excited chirping sound. The counselor responded with a series of clicks and whistles that the human translators couldn't fully process. "Cathix says you treated it with kindness and risked your lives to protect it," Direk finally said in English. "This is unexpected behavior from a species we had not previously encountered." "Helping those in need is a fundamental human value," Ford replied simply. Direk seemed to consider this. "We will send a diplomatic shuttle to dock with your vessel. There is much we should discuss." Within 30 minutes, the conference room that had recently held a furious Zorak now hosted a very different meeting. Direk and two other Varkonian officials sat across from Captain Ford, Jack, Lisa, and Samantha. Cathix moved freely around the table, occasionally stopping to touch one of the humans with an affectionate gesture. Meanwhile, Zorak had been transferred to the Varkonian security team. His weapons had been deactivated, and he was escorted to one of the newly arrived ships in restraints, his coup attempt thoroughly thwarted. "Your intervention was unexpected but fortunate," Direk said. "Zorak's plan would have thrown our society into chaos. Many lives would have been lost." "We're glad we could help," Ford replied, though it was really Cathix who did the hard part. Cathix made a dismissive chirping sound that made Direk's mouth parts shift in what might have been a smile. "Cathix says it would have died without your help," Direk translated. "The Cathari species has been our partners for 3 centuries. They chose to bond with us, sharing their perfect memory and intelligence in exchange for our protection and technology. The neural implants were developed together to enhance their natural abilities, so they're not pets," Lisa said. "They're more like colleagues?" "Yes, though companion is closer to our understanding of the relationship. Many high officials have Cathari partners who advise and assist them. Cathix was specially trained for security work, which is why it was assigned to watch Zorak." Jack leaned forward, curious. "We've never encountered any alien species before. This is all new to us." Direk's large eyes blinked slowly. "Which makes your actions even more remarkable. Many species, upon first contact with others different from themselves, react with fear or hostility. You showed compassion instead." The conversation continued as Direk explained more about Varkonian society and the upcoming Unity celebration that Zorak had planned to disrupt. The Varkonian Imperium, it turned out, was not really an empire at all, but a federation of different species who had joined together for mutual benefit. "Our ships detected your planet when we entered this system," Direk said. "Earth, you call it?" Your technology is still developing, but you show great promise. Ford nodded cautiously. We've only recently begun exploring our own solar system in depth. And yet, Direct continued, you handled this situation with wisdom beyond your technological level. The Civilian Council will want to establish formal relations with Earth. The implications of this statement were enormous. First contact had just been made official, and it was going far better than anyone might have expected. As they discussed potential cultural exchanges and diplomatic missions, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Captain! Martinez's voice came over the comm. Zorak has escaped custody. He overpowered his guards during transfer and is heading for the shuttle bay. Ford jumped to his feet. How is that possible? He was surrounded by Varkonian security. Drek stood as well, towering over the humans. He is a military commander with numerous implants and enhancements. We should have been more careful. Before anyone could react further, the ship rocked violently. The emergency lights activated as the main power fluctuated. He's planted explosives in the shuttle bay, Martinez reported. Containment fields are holding, but he's stolen a shuttle and is attempting to launch. Drek touched a device on his wrist. Security teams converge on the human vessel's launch bay. Prepare firing solutions on any craft that attempts unauthorized departure. Cathix suddenly leaped onto the conference table, its scales flashing rapid patterns of color. It made urgent sounds directly to Direk. The counselor's expression changed dramatically. Cathix says Zorak has a dead man switch implant. If he dies, a signal will trigger sleeper agents throughout our fleet. The coup may still proceed if he's killed. Then we need to capture him alive, Ford said grimly. Martinez, coordinate with the Varkonian security teams. We need to disable that shuttle without destroying it. Jack stepped forward. Captain, if I may, I have an idea. Ford nodded quickly. Let's hear it. Cathix mentioned that all the neural implants are connected to a central network. What if we use that connection to our advantage? Can we send a signal that would temporarily disable Zorak's enhancements? Drek considered this for a moment. Possible, but risky. It would require precise access codes. All eyes turned to Cathix, who was already chirping excitedly. It seems, Drek said with what might have been admiration, that our Cathari friend is one step ahead of us. It has the authorization codes necessary for an emergency shutdown. As they rushed to implement Jack's plan, the USS Horizon and its unexpected allies prepared for one final confrontation with the determined commander, whose pet had started it all. Paul Harris worked frantically at his engineering station, sweat beading on his forehead. Next to him, Samantha Wells linked her tablet to Cathix's neural interface while the small alien creature sat perfectly still, all three of its eyes closed in concentration. This has to be precise, Direk warned. If Zorak detects the intrusion before we can complete the shutdown sequence, he might trigger the dead man switch anyway. Captain Ford's voice came over the comm. Status update? The shuttle's engines are powering up. Almost ready, Samantha replied. Cathix is providing the authentication codes, but we need to route them through the Varkonian security protocols. On the bridge, Ford and Jack watched the main view screen, which showed a split image. One side displaying the damaged shuttle bay where Zorak had barricaded himself, the other showing the Varkonian vessels in position to intercept any escaping craft. If he makes it to his main ship, we could lose him, Jack said quietly. That's not going to happen, Ford replied with determination. In the engineering section, Cathix suddenly chirped and its scales flashed bright green. Samantha looked up with excitement. We're in. The security access has been granted. Paul's fingers flew across his console. Initiating shutdown sequence now. In the shuttle bay, Commander Zorak was making final preparations for launch when he suddenly stiffened. The neural implants throughout his body, which enhanced his strength, speed, and combat abilities, began to power down one by one. Roared in rage and slammed his four fists against the shuttle controls. Deactivation successful, Samantha reported. His combat enhancements are offline. What about the dead man switch? Direk asked urgently. Cathix made a series of rapid clicks that the translator converted. Isolated. Signal blocked. Ford didn't waste a moment. Security teams, move in, take him alive. Martinez led a combined human and Varkonian team into the shuttle bay. Without his enhancements, Zorak was still formidable due to his size and natural strength, but he was quickly overwhelmed by the coordinated team. This time, they took no chances. Special restraints designed for enhanced Varkonians were locked onto all 4 of his arms. As Zorak was led past the gathered officers and diplomats, he glared at Kethix with pure hatred. The small creature met his gaze steadily, its scales now a calm blue color. "Your treachery will not be forgotten," Zorak growled. Kethix responded with a dignified series of clicks that made Direc's eyes widen slightly. "What did it say?" Lisa asked. "It said, 'Neither will your crimes against our unity. The Cathari see all and remember all. This is why you feared me.'" With Zorak secured on Direc's vessel and the immediate danger past, the humans and Varkonians gathered once more in the conference room. The mood was lighter now, though everyone was exhausted from the ordeal. "Thanks to your assistance," Direct said, "we've not only prevented a coup but also identified Zorak's co-conspirators. The Unity celebration will proceed as planned, and our society remains stable." Ford nodded. "We're glad we could help, though it was really Kethix who deserves the credit." The creature, now perched comfortably on Lisa's shoulder, made a modest chirping sound. "Kethix says the cooperation between our species made this possible," Direct translated. "It also says it owes its life to your compassion." Jack smiled. "We couldn't just leave it in that damaged pod. Anyone would have done the same." Direct's head tilted slightly. "Perhaps on Earth, but not all species would extend such care to an unknown alien life form. This speaks well of humanity." The Supreme Counselor stood towering over the seated humans. "Captain Ford, in light of these events, I am authorized to extend a formal invitation. We would like Earth to send representatives to the Unity celebration as honored guests. This would mark your species' first official introduction to the wider galactic community." The humans exchanged stunned glances. This was far beyond what any of them had expected when they'd brought a small injured creature aboard their ship. "That's a tremendous honor," Ford said finally. "I'll need to consult with Earth authorities, of course." "Of course," Direct agreed. "We understand this is a significant development for your people." As they discussed the practical details of this historic invitation, Kethix suddenly leapt from Lisa's shoulder onto the conference table. It approached Captain Ford and extended a small scaled limb toward him in a gesture that seemed almost human-like. Ford, understanding the intent, gently shook the offered limb. Kethix's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, and its translator produced clear words: "Request permission to remain aboard USS Horizon. Wish to serve as liaison between Cathari, Varkonian, and human peoples." The request caught everyone by surprise. "Is that allowed?" Lisa asked, looking at Direk. The counselor seemed thoughtful. "It is unusual but not unprecedented. Cathari are free to choose their assignments. Kethix has clearly formed a bond with your crew." Ford looked at the small creature that had changed everything. "We would be honored to have you aboard, Kethix, if that's what you truly want." Kethix's scales rippled with patterns of gold and blue, a sign of pleasure they had learned. "Have never met species like humans, curious, brave, kind when not necessary to be kind. Much to learn from each other." 2 days later, as the USS Horizon prepared to return to Earth with its remarkable new crew member, Jack stood in the observation deck, gazing at the 3 Varkonian vessels that would escort them home. Their sleek, powerful forms against the backdrop of stars reminded him how vast the universe truly was, and how much of it humans had yet to explore. Lisa joined him, with Kethix riding on her shoulder, as had become their custom. "Everything's changed now, hasn't it?" she said quietly. Jack nodded. "Earth knowing we're not alone in the universe. Official first contact. Invitation to an interstellar celebration. All because we stopped to help an injured creature." Kethix made a soft chirping sound, and though the translator wasn't active, they understood the sentiment behind it. "You're welcome," Lisa said, gently stroking the creature's scales. "That's what friends do." As the Horizon set course for Earth, carrying news that would forever change human history. Keithix watched its new human companions with all three eyes. The creature had fled in desperation, expecting to die alone in the cold vastness of space. Instead, it had found something precious, beings who helped not because they had to, but because they could. In the great archive of Cathari memory, this small human vessel and its crew would now hold a special place. The day humanity proved itself worthy of the stars had begun with a simple act of compassion for what they thought was just an alien pet.